The Astrology of Fairyland, written, directed, and produced by Reverend Dr. Dickie Joe Mullen. In this video, Dr. Mullen explores the astrological elements of fairies, elves, gnomes, brownies, pixies, leprechauns, and other wee folk across the span of the year. She notes that they're more present around sunrises and sunsets, each of the seasonal changes, the equinoxes and solstices, Halloween, and other special days throughout the year. She explores each element of the fairyland world wherein elves, leprechauns, fairies, pixies, brownies, gnomes all interact and have their own communities. Now we will listen to Dr. Mullen's lecture on the astrology of fairyland.
I'm Dickie Jo Mullen, astrologer and paranormal investigator in downtown Orlando, Florida, coming to you with a whole new concept in astrology. It's the astrology of fairyland. It's akin to the esoteric astrology. Astrology is so versatile. I think that's why I love it so much. We can use it for health, compatibility reading, vocational guidance, baby horoscopes, all kinds of things. But with the popularity of the little people, the wee folks, gnomes, elves, fairies, being perennial, I thought it would be very interesting to look at astrology through the lens of the wee folk, through the land of fairy. The little people, the wee folk, do have their own calendar. They tend to be most active under full moons, and also they will tend to be active on certain days of the year. Obviously, we might think of Halloween, but other days in the old Celtic zodiac, like the spring equinox, the summer solstice, the autumn equinox, and Yuletide or the winter solstice. And then, of course, we have Candlemas and Beltane or May Day and August 1st, which is Lammas. All of those are days when the wee folk might be in evidence. And then also at sunrises and sunsets, as well as with the lunar cycle, particularly full moons. So the wee folk, the little people, the elementals, what are they? Think back to the earliest days of childhood and remember the uncanny, irresistible lure of the forest. Far from home and safety, the shadows of trees and gnarled roots might have awakened you to another world, the realm of nature, full of untamed and sinister forces. The tangled growths of green can open paths to wander. Children are often more sensitive to this environment than many adults are. This unjaded awareness to our surroundings puts us closer to finer levels of energy and less dense life forms. These forces have been personified in the folk tales of all the cultures around the world for hundreds of years as the little people, the kingdom of fairy, elves, brownies, gnomes, leprechauns, pixies, in Hawaii, the minihuna, and more. Before you scoff at the reality of this parallel universe, remember that just a few generations ago, space travel, telephone connections, electricity, and radio would have been called fantasy and fraud. Yet the forces that created the wonders of modern science have always been with us. So why not the legend and descriptions of other beings that have always been with us? Keep an open mind, an open heart, and open eyes as you go through the account of the little people offered in the video today. Perhaps if you are very lucky and if you have faith, you too will become friendly with them. Magical beings are concentrations of energy, of the swirling life forces in plant life, and by radiant magnetic streaming from the cosmos. Like clouds, they change their shapes and densities. They have different personalities, different flows and frequencies of power, just like the planets and the sun and the moon emit energies. The little folk often seem to know more about us than we know about them, yet they are more apt to be interested in the yearly rising of seeds and falling of leaves than in the rather bland affairs of human beings. If approached correctly, magical beings can be made to open to our needs. They willingly can lend us support from their high-pitched, intense, and emotional reservoirs of energy. Because it is easier to understand forms that are personified rather than abstract, these forces have been described as elementals. Fairies, elves, pixies, brownies, gnomes, and other marvelous beings. In Cornwall, they become piskies with Piskies. And as I said, in Hawaii, the mini huna, they have a lot of different faces. Their categories divide and help explain the different forces of life which compose their world. The first step you must take upon treading the road to fairyland is to develop an understanding and respect for its inhabitants. Again, the timing of when to connect with this world is important. Each month, the day of the full moon is a safe one to default to. And there are the other celebrations that I mentioned. The veil which separates us from them is thinnest at certain times. You might see flashes of violet and crystal light in the air just after sunset or just before sunrise. That's another indication of being a good time for communication. Midsummer's Eve, June 21st, 22nd, first day of summer, and Halloween are traditionally favorable days. There's a long tradition of adventures in the land of the supernatural, beginning at those times. On a chosen night at a chosen time, spend some time researching the records of experiences other mortals have had with your chosen fae friend. Look at legends, poems, and paintings. Don't be afraid, for your magical friends will absorb your mood. Be patient, concentrate, read the sections involving magical beings and any books about them. Visualize suggested images. Light a candle in a color you feel your mystical candle would like, your mystical companion might like. Call its name, ring a bell or chimes. You'll feel an energy flow that's described as an indication that you've made contact. Relax, talk to your little friend. It's there to be your companion, helper, and maybe your teacher. The element air goes with the fairies. Fairies take their name from a Latin word, fata, which means fate. They're personified as beautiful and powerful, usually female, who visited the cradles of the newborn with the purpose of giving them personality traits, talents, and faults too. The noun fay, F-A-Y, has a connotation of bewitchment. There are many different types of fairies, from small and innocent to great and powerful large beings. They live under a monarchy which is governed by a queen or a king who's assisted by a consort. Fairies love music, dance, jewels, and glitter. They have their own moral code. Due to an interest in fertility and nature cycles, they're rather loving and romantic. They're free and open in expressing affection. There are tales of handsome or beautiful mortals being swept away by a fairy. When that happens, the mortal may return to the real world, thinking that only a day has passed, but actually it turns out to be many, many years, even generations. Fairies are usually slender, graceful, lovely beings in appearance. If approached in friendship, they can lend aid to creative work. Activities in the fine arts and in giving the gift of disarming beauty are present. Fairies draw an atmosphere of idealism and nobility. To attract a fairy, dwell upon these mental images. A brilliant starlit sky imploding and twinkling into light, harpsichord music playing, and a sapphire-colored ocean with the moon rising over it. At the same time, visualize yourself flying in joyful ecstasy through the air and across the water. Look at your reflection in the water. See yourself radiantly attractive and wearing shimmering silk wings. Fairy energy feels like a breath of sweet perfume. Think of Shakespeare's play A Midsummer Night's Dream and the Queen of the Fairies. Think of Gulliver's Travels and the wee folk he met there. These are some ways to make this world seem more real to you and to introduce it a little more easily. Let's talk about elves and leprechauns. Elven energy will dispel depression, make memories happy, and promote contentment. It's ideal to aid in platonic friendship, community projects, and love affairs of the gentle, courtly variety. You will know that you've tapped into a reservoir of elf energy when you feel refreshed by a breeze that's blowing, that surrounds you while sweetly brushing your cheek. To aid in conjuring elves, visualize a meadow that leads into rolling hills with grass and flowers. See a flask and flight of birds migrating in the spring against a clear morning sky. Hear sparkling music in the background. Feel a few drops of dew as you reach out to touch a flower. Elves and leprechauns relate to the element fire, but also combined with air. They're renowned for the beautiful shoes that they make, especially in the case of the leprechauns. Elves collect a vast collection of treasure. Because they know that they are coveted by human beings, they will sometimes tease or hint about the location of their treasures and spread rumors about it being hidden at the end of the rainbow. This is mere rumor, however. The pots of elven gold are hidden much, much more carefully than the end of the rainbow. Thinking of pixies, pixies are fiery. They have turned up noses, slanted eyes, sly, wicked grins, usually red hair that's ragged and windblown. They're slender and active, generally dressed in shades of green. Not usually considered as pretty as the fairies or even the elves, they're friendly with some brownies. They love to play jokes. They like misleading travelers, stealing ponies to ride around in, maybe cars in today's world. And they also dance around fairy rings of mushrooms. They're so small that 10 to 20 of the pixies can ride on a small horse. They've been sighted in Cornwall and Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. They are a good fae feature to cultivate as a friend if you want to develop a sense of humor, be a stand-up comic, and make life more interesting and the tempo of life faster. To attract a pixie, think of a cloud of frenzied butterflies, a triple rainbow, and the sound of wind chimes. Small wisteria blossoms in the air. Pretend you're riding a swift horse across a grassland under the moon. Feel the horses sprout wings and fly like Pegasus through the heavens. You'll know you've contacted pixie energy when you feel the urge to laugh uncontrollably and be swept along by a mood of exhilaration. Fiery energy there. Now we're as far as the element earth with the gnomes. Gnomes have become international celebrities. This began in the 1970s with the publication of a best-selling book, Gnomes, but they've become more and more a part of our culture. They're usually sighted in the Scandinavian countries, and they like to frequent forested mountain slopes. They are earthy. They're compact with sturdy, husky builds and long beards. They're reported to be 7 times stronger than people, although they're often just the size of a sparrow. They live about 400 years, and they wear peaked, bright-colored caps, sometimes green, but usually red. Associated with the earth elements, the gnomes are noted for their stamina and their stability. They're buoyant and good-humored enough to live even in the northern areas of Finland and Siberia. Some are miners, others are woodcutters. To meet a gnome, hear the low, strong beat of a drum beating. Feel a boom, boom, boom rhythm, moving and supporting and strengthening you. Envision a vital, powerful fellow striding through the forest. Hear him whistle a tune. Think of a wild river cascading freely over the rocks, vital and persistent. You'll know you've met a gnome when you feel solid and central and philosophically sound. You need a gnome for a friend if you're prone to panic, prone to tears or depression. They also cure shyness. They're really confident. A little less intense and earthy, but just as strong and friendly are the brownies. Brownies are friendly and domestic. They're helpful spirits if you want to have a happy home and family life. They promote brotherly love and partnership. In Western Britain and the lowlands of Scotland, brownies often come into homes at night to do the work left behind by servants. Each evening they work hard and faithfully for any mortals they've adopted. If you sense a brownie is near you, leave out a bowl of milk or oatmeal or an oat cake that's like a cracker. It's proper to make them a new suit of clothes once a year. Brownies tend to be about 3 feet high. They tend to be male with shaggy hair, and they're dressed entirely in brown. They might wear a few red feathers in their caps, though. To contact a brownie, think of mountains capped with snow, covered with heather. Look down the heather patches to see a small cabin. Visualize the evening coming. Feel a chilled wind. As you shiver, see the windows of a cabin light with a warm, cheery glow. Walk toward a warm hearth, and as you reach the doorway, you'll see welcoming eyes shimmering like fire combined with earth, waiting for you. You might hear very deep violin music. You'll know you've met your brownie when you feel a vibrant, steady warmth spreading through your whole being. You'll suddenly be feeling more loving and more charitable. Observation of fairies in recent times. Recorded fairy existings are ancient, but they also are released and are available in our current 21st century world. Nearly every generation in all the cultures around the world can boast of evidence that a few mortals have actually seen and even communicated with the little people. The most elaborate, vivid, and frequent of evidences comes from the British Isles and Northwest Europe. At the turn of the last century, on the Isle of Man, fairies were described by one Walter Hill in a book called The Third Manx Scrapbook. He saw little people about 18 inches high, the color of fungus, that danced and had clearly defined features. In Wales, the fairies are small and beautiful. They wear traditional multicolored clothing. A clairvoyant named Geoffrey Hodson recorded fairy antics in his book, Fairies at Work and Play. These fairies were about 6 inches in height with oval wings and predominantly and prominently blue garments. Dora Van Gelder's book, The Real World of Fairies from the Theosophical Society, describes various classes of little people and angelic beings that Van Gelder worked with. She and her friends saw, and spoke to over a period of years many different fairies from the coastal regions of Florida all the way to Australia. A. Conan Doyle, creator of Sherlock Holmes, believed in the kingdom of fairies. He wrote a long treatise about them and claimed to have seen them and had interviewed people with similar experiences. Doyle obtained and published some photographs of gnomes, elves, and fairies, which appear to be genuine, even under expert scrutiny. During the early 1960s, a spiritual community named Findhorn was founded in a remote area of Scotland. People who live there today and lived in Findhorn through the 1960s and 70s claim to see regular messages and sightings of fairies and nature spirits. These are the spirits that are the living entities of fire, earth, air, water, and ether or light. There's a spirit of a message from Findhorn that was recorded in 1969, actually recorded on tape, that goes like this. We come when there is a call from any part of life, but the initiative must come from your side, humans. We will not force ourselves upon you. We have always been part of life on earth and of human endeavors, but human beings are generally unaware of us. The consciousness is starting to broaden, though, and we rejoice. There's a certain protocol and etiquette in dealing with fairyland. You have to have good manners. The citizens of the land of fairy are very sensitive. They are less dense and more refined than human beings, and they have to be treated with the utmost care and consideration. Or they might play some unpleasant tricks or just abandon you at the wrong moment. Think of delicacy and reticence. If you would have your self picking up a fairy human being, think of picking up an injured baby hummingbird. Keep that frame of mind without the anxiety as you begin to communicate with the wee folk, the little people. Guidelines and ethics are always keep yourself and your surroundings spotlessly neat and clean. The little people love order. Be cheerful and generous. The fairies and other magical beings will trick or avoid those who become grumpy and miserly. Be extremely polite. Do not spy on them or invade their privacy. Be hospitable. They will repay favors of kindness threefold. Keep an open mind about love. The little people are closer to nature than we are, and they might seem very liberal in the way they express affection until you begin to understand them. Do not confuse your magical friends. Ask them for only one favor at a time. State it clearly. Communication gaps can develop easily. It is proper to give your mystical companions gifts of music, candles, streamers of beautiful incense, and possibly ribbons. Dedicate parties, artistic projects, or maybe a love affair to them. Observation of fairies in modern times. Recorded fairy sightings exist from ancient through modern times, and nearly every generation will have some evidence of a few mortals that have actually seen or worked with the wee folk and the little people. I hope you've enjoyed this tour of Fairyland and this visit in the land of Fae. And remember, if you're sensitive to fire, air, earth, and water, and the elemental world around us, the likelihood of actually seeing one is very, very positive. When I was a teenager, I was riding my bicycle. This was living in Wisconsin, and I was driving, this was on a Sunday afternoon, through the drive-through at a bank. and the bank was closed, but it was kind of a shortcut. And the bank door came open, and there were a whole bunch of gnomes in the drawer. And I just felt paralyzed. I wanted to go over and get them. And then the drawer closed again, and I never saw it open like that again. I actually tried to talk to the bank people, and our family had a reputation of being slightly eccentric anyway, and that really cemented it when I asked whether there were any elves living in the bank drawer. But that was a real experience. Maybe some of you have had such experiences too. Here are some sources of reference. The World Guide to Fairies and Gnomes and Elves by Thomas Knightley, Magical Creatures by Louise Huebner, The Witch's Almanac by Elizabeth Pepper, The Encyclopedia of Fairies by Catherine Briggs, The Findhorn Garden by the Findhorn Community, and The Encyclopedia of Magic and Superstition. This is published by Octopus Books Limited. The words fairy and fae are general descriptions that cover the entire realm of supernatural beings, elves, brownies, pixies, contrast, etc. They're an individual group of beings that are part of fairy, but not its totality. This poem by H.P. Lovecraft, I think, is a very good meditation in beginning to enter into this reality. H.P. Lovecraft writes, I cannot tell why some things hold for me a sense of unplugged marvels to befall, or of a rift in the horizon's wall. Opening to the worlds where only gods can be, there is a breathless, vague expectancy, as of vast ancient pomps I half recall, or wild adventures uncorporeal, ecstasy fraught, and as a daydream free. It is in sunsets and strange city spires, old villages and woods and misty downs, south winds, the sea, low hills, and lighted beings and towns, old gardens, half-heard songs, and the moon's fires. But though its lure alone makes life worth living, none gains or guesses what it hints at giving. In addition to this, the mystical quotations by Albert Einstein are really good to look into for further research. I'm Dickie Joe in Orlando, Florida, wishing you a wonderful journey into the land of fairy.
Thank you for watching the video. Reverend Dr. Dickie Jo Mullen has been gifted with several psychic learning styles that she has developed over her lifetime. Each of us has been gifted with innate psychic learning styles as well that we may choose to develop. Reverend Dr. Dickie Jo Mullen is an astrologer, psychic, and parapsychologist. She provides astrology, psychic, rune, and tarot card readings. She provides face-to-face and Zoom readings and seances. She offers webinars, face-to-face individual and group sessions as well. Here are Dr. Mullen's social media sites. Her email recently changed. She offers inspirational insights on her WordPress site. She has more than 200 related videos on her YouTube channel and also maintains a Facebook page. Reverend Dr. Dickie Jo notes that use of the internet enhances the psychic energy of her work. She observes that this is a result of the fusion of her earthbound energy, her psychic energy, and internet energy working together. She encourages you to explore and develop your innate psychic learning styles.